It's amazing what happened when a man saved a lion and its cubs years later. Alex was born in Ukraine and had lived most of his life on a safari in South Africa. The veterinarian loved nature and the wild feeling that came with hiking through the Serengeti plains. Behind a few rocks, not far away, there was a lioness. He had never been so close to a beast in the wild before, and the sheer size of the beast amazed him. At first, he panicked and started aiming his gun at the lioness because he was sure it would attack him, but it only growled at him. It was then that Alex noticed a problem. The lioness didn't attack him because it couldn't. It turned out that its leg had somehow gotten caught in a clip, and it was in so much pain that it couldn't move another bit of distance. Alex felt both relieved that he was still safe and feared that such a beautiful animal had been trapped in such an inhumane way. Clearly, this was the work of poachers. No doubt that the poachers would return to take the lion and sell everything on it to make some money. The thought that this lion would be killed as a result of a trade made Alex sad. He knew he had to do something to help it. He decided to try to get closer to the lion to see if he could open up the trap and release it. But as he approached, the frightened animal shrugged up at him and lunged at him. Alex quickly ducked out of its reach to ensure his safety, thinking of ways to both free it and allow himself a safe escape. But he knew the lioness would not let him get close. Thanks to his extensive experience with wildlife, Alex noticed something else. As the lioness pounced at him, he saw its stomach, or more precisely, its teeth swollen and full of milk, which meant that the lioness cubs were nearby and they wouldn't survive long without it. With this new discovery, Alex knew that he had to act quickly. If the cubs were left alone for too long, they could starve, or predators could find them and kill them because they would be unable to defend themselves. With the lions still tied up and unwilling to let Alex get close to it, the kind man had only one choice. He had to find the cubs himself and bring them back to the lioness. Fortunately, Alex knew they couldn't be too far away, so he looked around until he found some footprints. He followed the prints for a short distance away from the lionesses until he heard a couple of mules, which he followed to a grassy area and found 3 lion cubs hiding in the grass, calling for their mother. Alex quickly took the cubs in his arms and walked towards the lioness. Seeing its cubs, the lioness began to growl again while trying to break free of the trap. Alex was nervous because he didn't want to upset the lioness so that it would hurt itself, so he gently put the cubs down one by one. Once on the ground, the lion cubs began to growl again and slowly made their way to the lioness. Throughout this process, Alex talked to the lioness in a calm and soothing way, assuring it that he didn't want to hurt it and that he was actually helping it. Seeing that it was in no danger, the lioness calmed down. When its cubs finally came towards it, it laid down to let them drink some milk. Alex watched from a safe distance as the family was reunited again, and he was happy to bring the cubs to their mother once again. But he still had the problem of how to set the lioness free. For a while, Alex just stood a short distance away from the lion and spoke to it in a comforting way. He didn't know how long the lioness had been trapped, but he realized it must have been hungry because it still had to give milk to its cubs. Alex assured the lioness that he would be back. Then, he quickly ran back to his truck and circled around it until he spotted a zebra carcass. Although there wasn't much meat left on it, he knew it would be enough for the lioness to regain a little strength. The brave man cut a chunk of meat off the zebra carcass and returned to the lioness and its cubs. When he returned, the lioness was no longer as hostile as it was before. In fact, it seemed eager to see the man again, especially when he held a chunk of meat out for it to eat. Alex watched the lion lick its lips and smiled knowingly. Before giving it the flesh, he spoke gently to it. The lioness hesitantly stood up, sniffed the meat, and then began eating. With the lioness distracted, Alex saw this as his chance. He approached the lioness slowly and carefully and quickly sedated it with a tranquilizer. Before the drug began to take effect, he untied the lioness and tried to lure it to the back of his truck, where he had placed 3 cubs in the den. However, Alex was too focused on his task and he didn't notice that the lioness had stopped feeding. When a shadow fell on him, it was already only a few feet from him. Alex slowly lifted his head and saw the lioness a few inches away from him. But the lioness didn't get angry or attack him. It just stood there. The lioness was injured and couldn't walk properly, and Alex tried to get it to the back of the truck before it passed out. He gave it a gentle nudge, understanding it needed to obey. So it did something completely unexpected. Before it jumped onto the runway near the cubs, it approached Alex and started rubbing its head against him, just like a little cat would do. Once the lioness was in the truck, Alex got off and drove as fast as he could to the reserve where he lived. As Alex drove away, he couldn't help but be amazed at what had just happened at the reserve. He and other staff members nursed the injured lioness back to health and cared for the cubs. During that time, the lioness and its cubs got closer to Alex. After a few months, it was time to bring the lion family back into the wild. Before they were separated, the lioness hugged Alex for the last time as they had grown fond of him. Years passed, and Alex did not see the lioness he had helped again. One day, though, he saw an amazing sight. A group of lions frolicking under the tree where he had been. When he stopped a short distance from them, a lion looked up at him. As soon as they saw him, they quickly stood up and began to walk quickly toward him. At first, Alex was nervous because he did not want to be attacked by a lion. But as the lion approached, he began to realize that it knew him. It was the cub that he had rescued years ago. Alex was surprised that he had met it, and even more shocked that the lion seemed to remember him. When they were close enough, it began to nudge Alex with its head, just as its mother had done years ago. Alex smiled and carefully stroked its fur until it retreated back into its pride. Alex was so happy that the cub remembered him and what he had done for its family. Knowing that he couldn't stay too long, Alex turned his car around and started to head home. But then, he heard a loud bang from the male lion. Even though he knew it would probably be something that would only happen once in a lifetime, Alex couldn't help but think about how happy he was to have made such a strong and lasting connection with the lions in such a short period of time. Although he never saw them again, the experience with these amazing creatures made him feel so happy. Let us know what you think of this story in the comments below. Could we get this video up to 50,000 likes? Let's give it a try.